and instead, have it so that less than 5% of anybody with a medical card has HIV, glaucoma, cancer, multiple sclerosis. The average user, folks, is a 32-year-old white male with a history of drug abuse and a little back pain. Anybody in here not suffer from anxiety, stress, headaches, or insomnia lately? Oh, great. We all qualify in most places. All right. Now, New Jersey, thankfully, has started with a very small program. Now, of course, folks are saying, well, we need it for this and that. They're trying to expand it, and I think we have to watch. But I will commend, at least in New Jersey, it doesn't look like California for now, which is good. But at the end of the day, folks, we don't smoke opium to get the effect of morphine. We don't need to smoke marijuana to get its medical effect. Do you all know where aspirin comes from? It comes from the willow tree. It's the bark of a willow tree. I kid you not. Can you imagine if I said, you know what? Don't buy aspirin, which gives you a dosage and a standard medication. Forget about that. Grow a willow tree in your backyard. Grab some bark, chew it. You'll be good to go. Now, what if you went on vacation like Hawaii? You'd have to be like, or anywhere. You'd be like, well, what was the weather like? Can you imagine asking someone about when you go to buy aspirin at CVS? Can you tell me about that? Where was this grown? What was the weather like? Are there molds? Are there bacteria? It doesn't make any sense. Let's have a dosable medication under a doctor's supervision and be done with it. So, and let me tell you something, but what keeps me up at night is not Willie Nelson, by the way, has like a new marijuana strain. Let me tell you, no one under 30 knows who Willie Nelson is, so that's fine. Melissa Etheridge has a new wine-infused, anyway, no effect. That's fine. A lot of people like Melissa Etheridge, no problem. But I don't stay up at night on this issue and worry because of Melissa Etheridge and Willie Nelson. I don't worry because of my old I went to Berkeley. That wasn't mentioned as an undergrad in California. And before you think of anything, yes, I had a group called Citizens for a Drug-Free Berkeley, and it was about as popular as the Coalition for a Wine-Free France. So I get it. My worry is not the guys at Berkeley that I used to see, pass around a roach clip, right, and do that. My worry is these guys. This is just an example. These are the guys I went to my graduate work at Oxford. These are the guys that are winning the MBA contest at Harvard. These are the guys with the Ivy League MBAs, no joke, who, sometimes some people think that guy looks like me. I'm a little offended at that. But anyway, some people, but that's my worry, is that they look like my friends, and they look like the guys I know who work on Wall Street, because like literally some of them do work on Wall Street. And they want to be the pot millionaires. They say they want to be the Philip Morris of pot. Those are the words that come out of their mouths. Folks, that is what I'm worried about. Not if the 60-year-old is smoking a joint once a month after work. I'm worried about this machine that's going to unravel. And unless someone can find an exception to the First Amendment about free speech, you can't stop that. This idea that, well, we'll regulate it. No, you won't. Not as long as there's a First Amendment. And by the way, have we done that with prescription drugs again? I can't watch television without watching 75 commercials about a prescription drug. The only reason we don't see tobacco advertising is because they had a settlement with the government, and because the government was about to prohibit them after we found out they were lying for a century. We were literally about to cut their throats off, and then they said, don't do that. We'll write you a blank check. We'll give you all of our papers, and we promise not to advertise now and again. Right? That's what the alcohol. We see advertising. So the bottom line is, this is my worry, is this mass commercialization. And for the folks that think this is a social justice issue, let me just tell you something. The guys in this business, it's not exactly a social justice issue. They look like these guys. Let me just give you, they're not exactly winning the, minority business entrepreneurial awards, because they're not in it for that. They're in it to make money. And they're using their own sphere of influence to do that. We put an ad in the New York Times. Many of you helped us with this, actually, where we talked about, you can't see it from there, but perception versus reality, to wake people up. The perception is the hippie. The reality is the boardroom CEO. Okay, because that's really is what it comes down to. Bob Marley's family just sold his name for $50 million to these guys, and they're creating the Marley Natural brand. It was just on CBS this morning, 2 days ago in the morning. You can see it. They talk about Melissa Etheridge in there, too. And, I think Bob Marley's probably rolling in his grave, because Bob Marley was like the counterculture, like the rebel, right? This is now the corporate America. How ironic is that? And that's where the values of the hippies aren't exactly in line with the values of Wall Street, right? There's a disconnect there. But the guys from Wall Street are more than happy to ride on those coattails all the way to the bank. That is really what is happening. And I think we need to remember our history. I'm going to just keep hitting this point. Folks, these are real ads. When I show this to kids, they think I'm lying. They think that I've made this in Photoshop. You know, more doctors smoke Camel than any other cigarette. How about Dr. Batty's For Your Health asthma cigarettes? How about, you know, now scientific evidence of the effects of smoking, like in a good way. This is real. And when I talk to anybody under 18, first of all, high school kids, they don't even know what big tobacco is. When I tell them that there was a time in our lifetime where you could smoke in an airplane, they actually think I'm just kidding. And then I told them, no, actually, and they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. And when the American Medical Student Association in 1975 said, guys, country, I think we might want to rethink the smoking in an airplane kind of thing. Like when you already don't have a lot of oxygen, you're up 30,000 feet in the air in a small little capsule flying around the, you know, in the sky. You probably don't want like to be inhaling carcinogens all around you. That was a radical move. Let me just tell you, that was not like, oh yeah, whoops, we forgot. That was like, are you guys crazy? Everybody said they were crazy. Congress, president, it was not something that people wanted to do. Then they finally came around because they saw what was going on. But kids these days don't even know what big tobacco. They don't know what it's like to have a vending machine on their campus selling a cigarette. They think that's a made up thing too. I said there were once vending machines that did not ask for ID, where you could put a buck in and get a pack of cigarettes. They think that's fantasy. So my worry is that actually a lot of these kids, they don't even know what that was like. And so they can't even envision a marijuana world that's that kind of world I'm describing because they didn't live through that. And that's I think a big issue. I want to finish very briefly with what's going on a little bit in Colorado and Washington. You know, it's true. Colorado and Washington and a couple other states voted to legalize marijuana, and it's also true that it's absolutely against, you know, federal law. But you know, we're just kind of letting it go. And you should know, though, that this did not happen overnight. It did start with medical. It was kind of the same thing, right? This is for the sick and dying, and we need a dispensary for the cancer patient. And then now I go to those same places, and they're like, we're now the recreational dispensary for everybody because it's legal. I mean, it's so, you know, duplicitous. But they started with medical, and then they went down the line and went to full legalization. And just a couple of observations and some data I want to share. First of all, you now have the largest newspaper in the state that was on its dying deathbed before this, so excited about this because they get the new ad revenue. And you're wondering why we see pro-marijuana things in the media. Folks, I mean, who's paying the bills? Now, you're probably wondering, Kevin, what does that have to do with this picture? Well, I'll tell you. The Denver Post has started The Cannabist. The Cannabist is the marijuana sort of section of the newspaper now. They do reviews on strains. They talk about wax and shatter all the time. They talk about the Instagram and Twitter profiles, this marijuana celebrities. They take one little thing that someone said positive about pot and make sure that every kid in the state hears that. And they're making a lot of good money from it. They also, by the way, have a handy little thing on the right that tells you find a store near you. You just put in your zip code. They got that idea by those Yale millionaires I told you about, because they became millionaires by creating the Yelp of pot called Weed Maps. You can all download it off Apple, and you press a button of where you are, and it shows you the marijuana dispensaries in your vicinity. That's why those guys started. That's where they started to make money. So these guys were sort of ripping that off and using that. The edibles. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the edibles for a minute, okay? First of all, the increase in accidental ingestion from kids under 6 has been astronomical. There was a report released yesterday on this, actually a very interesting one. If you Google it, you'll find it, but there's a lot of reports on this. And what happens is, you know, the brownie's left on the table, and the 5-year-old sees a brownie and eats it. I mean, it's not rocket science. And let me tell you, if you saw a brownie, you wouldn't know if it had marijuana in it, let alone a gummy bear or a sucker, and or an ice cream or a soda. And you know, when, first of all, like for example, Levi Thumba fell to his death, or other kids have also died, and we ask the industry, well, what do you think about this? You know, they ate your product. They say, well, they didn't read the directions, the label. They didn't eat the proper serving. So for the cookie, you're supposed to cut the cookie in 8 pieces and eat an 8th every half hour. Now, I'll tell you, I don't know how you all are with cookies, or if you saw me over there. Let me tell you, I don't want 1, I want 3, okay? There's none of this cutting into 8s. I mean, and we laugh, but if you think about it, it's just incredible. And this is like, nobody questions this in Colorado, okay? This is the status quo now, folks. This is what the politicians have to defend, because God forbid, if they get more headlines or they spread the word that it's not going well, it's on their watch now, right? So it's becomes a political thing now, because it's like on the Department of Revenue, Department of Health. They own it now. They didn't want it. I'll tell you, they didn't. Governor Hickenlooper, centrist Democrat, absolutely didn't want it. But now he has to tell 60 Minutes the other day, well, I used to think it was bad, but now it might be going okay. No, that's because he owns the program now, sadly. He inherited this. And, and then you go to Denver, to the Capitol, and you have these rooms filled with marijuana special interest lobbyists who are there to make sure that any labeling requirement, they had said, well, okay, guys, you're causing a lot of problems. Let's have it so that at least every edible that goes in the market has to be tested and approved by a special board. Not that there's a safe way, but, and then the board label it, and the board do serving sizes. So if it's an 1/8 of a cookie, it comes in an 1/8 of a package, right? Package of that. They said, no way. That's not what the people of Colorado voted for. It's a constitutional amendment. They voted to legalize marijuana. This is what they said, and we're going forward on that. So even when you try and get quote-unquote sensible regulations, because you're going to hear that in New Jersey, we've already heard it. People saying, we want sensible regulations. We want to control it. Folks, control means the control of the special interest lobbyists, because they don't make money if people aren't consuming these in vast quantities. That's the bottom line. And when I talked to you earlier about how kids are the target because the brain is forming, absolutely. You only make money in this business if you increase rates of addiction and heavy use. That's it. Does the guy in Atlantic City who goes there once a year on his birthday and to play $100 blackjack, is that guy getting the upgrade to the penthouse suite? Or is it the guy that's, there every other day betting his life savings by the roulette table? Well, obviously it's that guy, because those are your best customers. That's what's feeding the profit. And so these guys have to figure out a way to make this more attractive to the youngest group as possible in order to get the lifelong customers, because that's the only way they have a long-term business plan. They don't make money from the guy that, the one guy that wants to try one brownie once a year. That's not an important part. Then you have these sodas, like the grape soda with the skeleton and marijuana picture cartoon. And then you ask who are these aimed for? Oh, no, these are medical. These are medical sodas. They're aimed, they're meant for the seriously ill, the elderly. And I don't know what elderly and seriously ill person wants a grape soda laced with THC with a skeleton monkey marijuana guy on the front of it. But folks, this passes as normal. Like, that response is just like, yeah, so what? And this really is the new normal over there. Patrick was on the Colbert Report, and he talked about how there's even, it's catering to the ski culture, and it's like $1 joint if you show your ski pass at some places. There's now a snowboard-themed dispensary. And we got emails saying, oh, stop lying. You're just making this up. You're trying to make it look more harmful than it is. Well, then we went and found the coupon just to show people that it was real. And I don't know about you, but I'm not a great skier. I have no desire to be skiing in Colorado, let alone bring my nieces and nephews to ski in Colorado at this point, because I don't know who's operating the lifts, and I don't know who else is around me. We laugh, but it's serious. It's a serious issue. And folks, let's talk for a second about vaporizing, the e-cigarettes. Anyone who thinks we're winning the war on smoking hasn't looked at the e-cigarette use among young people. And yes, it is safer than regular cigarettes, absolutely, but it is not safe, especially for a young person. And the vaporizing of marijuana, we now have the 3rd largest tobacco company in the world, which is called Japan Tobacco. Japan Tobacco has bought the technology to be able to vaporize marijuana and tobacco. Actually, yeah, it's real tobacco in one product. If you're an 8th grade teacher and you think you're going to smell the boys' bathroom smoking a joint, I have news for you. You ain't going to smell anything. In fact, it looks like one of them, I'm trying to find I can never find it on key here. One of them looks like, I was going to show my flash drive. Oh, wait, here you go. You have there's one right there. Well, see, prepared. It looks like a highlighter. Another one looks like a flash drive. You're not going to know, and you can't smell it. You can't really see it. This is what's going on. I do think teachers' unions should really worry about this because, again, they're rated by their kids. And I know that this is, we want to avoid the political issues and whatnot, but I can't imagine how you can avoid this anymore with what's going on, especially in Colorado schools. So here's Marijuana Inc., Fortune magazine. Here's a vending machine for pot called MedBox, because that's where you go get your prescription drugs. Don't you go to you don't go to a vending machine when you're seriously ill? They don't? Oh, okay, well, you do there. And this is what one of the stores looked like. I got just a little story here. When I was in Colorado, I said, well, I got to go to one of these stores. I can't just go around speaking about this, 300 days a year and not actually go into one of them. And, my friends and colleagues were like, no, you can't. And whether they're going to have your picture wanted with a big, bullseye. And I said, no, don't worry. So I went in and they said, hello, sir, are you medical or recreational? They asked me. I said, because let me tell you why. You walk in, and the store was divided by a curtain. There's the same thing on either side. There was just a black curtain. Okay. Are you medical or recreational? I said, I don't know. What should I be? I was really wanting to go along with this. And let me just tell you, I'm originally from California, but I've lived on the East Coast for a long time, so that's why none of you probably think I speak too fast. But whenever I go anywhere else west of the Mississippi, I have to really just slow down because things are slower, and that's okay. And absolutely, this person, pot doesn't exactly make you the fastest, of anything. So this person was like extra slow. It was like Colorado plus. So here I am, my East Coast disposition now. I'm sort of losing my patience as every second goes by, and she's like, are you recreational or medical? It's like, oh boy. So I knew this was already going to be a stressful experience, but I said, well, I don't know, what should I be? And she said, what? And I thought she was going to ask the responsible question, well, are you sick, right? Or like, do you have a debilitating illness? We would think that would be the criteria. She said, how much time do you have? And I said, well, I actually don't have a lot of time. I have about half an hour. Let's move this along. And she said, well, if you had a little more time, what we could do is call the doctor on call. They'd be here in 3 minutes. They would do an assessment of you. You would buy your medical card, and you'd get your marijuana. And I said, why would I want to do that? It's legal here. This was like 2 months after legalization. Like, hooray, it's legal. Everyone's coming to Colorado to buy legal weed. Like, why would I want a medical card? I thought we just eliminated that whole thing. It's like, come on. She said, no, you don't understand. If you buy your medicine versus your recreational material, your medicine is not taxed at the rate that your recreational is taxed at. In fact, it's like 20% cheaper. And I said, oh, well then, and she said, we just had to do the recreational because, we got to show how are we going to get the soccer mom in Cherry Creek, which is, probably like this area. It's like that area in Denver. How are we going to get the soccer mom to vote for this other than to say we're going to be able to fund new schools and parks and stuff like that? We weren't going to convince them saying pot is good. So we had to say we're going to get them some tax revenue. So we are, but, you want to go medical if you don't want to pay. And I said, well, I don't really have time for that. I said, but why doesn't everybody do that? She said, oh, well, it does cost $250 to get your card. So it's kind of like a Costco card. Like you buy in advance and then you get cheaper later. And I said, well, I'm not going to, in my head, I'm not going to be coming back anytime soon. So let's. And I wanted to buy a couple of edibles to show in my presentations. And she said, okay, well, you can just go recreational. I said, all right. So I picked a couple suckers and gummy bears and things out, probably about 7 or 8 things. And I get to the counter, she's ringing everything up. She says, slowly ringing every single thing and the barcode. And I'm like, oh, right, come on. And she said, so then she says, that'll be $323.45. Folks, it was like 9 pieces of candy, okay? And I said, all right, well, I don't really ever carry cash around, although now, living in New Jersey, I've learned that you can get gas cheaper if you pay cash. So I always have like a 50 in my wallet just in case. And so, but I'd never carry cash. So I gave her a card. She goes, oh, no, we don't accept credit card. No. I said, why not? She said, well, we can't. I mean, this is federally illegal. We can't work with banks. I said, well, how do you get your tax revenue that supposedly you collect to the city? Oh, we just go over there when we remember with, bags of cash and we drop it off there. I said, all right, okay. I mean, this is like, again, this is passing as like official, legal. Everyone's so happy. And so I said, all right, well.